Okay, everybody, I'm Oak Tree, tarot reader. This is my new channel. I do have another channel which is pick a card videos. I will link that in the description box. I'm still going to carry on doing the pick a card videos, don't worry about that. But this is something that I've wanted to do for a while, which is more generalised readings on world events, on things that are happening in the world politically, domestically and internationally, because I find it interesting. And I thought it would be a good thing for us to do. It's entirely for entertainment purposes. It's to entertain me, and it's also to entertain you. So and it's only going to really reflect the energies of now, of me recording it, and sort of the immediate future of the next 2 to 4 weeks. So it'll be interesting in the future to look back at some of these videos that I'm going to record and see whether I was right or I was wrong. But yeah, it's just for fun, just to explore things that are going on. I don't mind doing readings on people, but I'm absolutely not going to do any readings on the personal lives of people. It's only relation to their public life, and the things that they get up to. So like with politicians and how they deal with things. But I'm mainly going to be focusing on things that are going on in the world, unless there's a good reason otherwise. So I thought something good to start off with is the coronavirus, because it's just in the news all the time and it's obviously getting bigger and bigger and things going on. Italy has just announced that it's effectively quarantining itself. Things are getting cancelled, places are getting shut down. I think we're got interesting times ahead of us. Obviously, I'm not going to go country by country because I'll be here for the next 6 hours. I'm going to look generally worldwide of how it's going to impact us. And because I live in England, I'll probably look at that because I'm in England. Yeah. So what I will say before this is whatever advice you've been given by your local authorities, your governments or whatever, is the advice to follow. Keep yourself clean, be sensible. Lots of people are going insane, stockpiling stuff, Why would you need 50 toilet rolls? I mean, fair enough, grab a couple of packets if you think you might be stuck in the house for a couple of weeks, if you've come in contact with it and you want to make sure you've got some tinned foods and stuff in the freezer. I can understand that logic, but to completely buy, dozens and dozens of toilet rolls and packets of pasta just makes it harder for everybody else to get things, to be able to get their shopping done. But anyway, we'll see. This is one of the things I want to look at is, okay, so I think we'll start off with what is it that we don't know about COVID-19? I'm going to call it coronavirus. What is it that at this moment in time we don't know about coronavirus? So it is moving across the world. We know that. It's not news, I'm not going to shock you with that, but it is moving, and I think it's moving quicker than people realise. I think a lot more people have this illness, this virus, than they realise have, because it seems to be, depending on who's got it, how they react to it. Some people are symptomless. They don't have a single symptom, and other people have a few symptoms but they're not really that ill. It's the vulnerable in society that are going to get impacted. Most people that get this coronavirus are going to be fine. They're going to be ill for a couple of weeks like they would with any flu, but then they will be okay. It's the vulnerable, it's the elderly and probably the quite young that people are worried about, and the pressure of taking care of so many old people on the medical services. So it's moving. I think it's moving quicker than people think. This intrigues me, is I think that it's going to affect the same sorts of people, which makes sense because it's usually the people with underlying health conditions and the older people in our society and the more vulnerable, that don't have good health. I think it's just going to target them. I think probably lots of other people in the middle are going to be fine. It just seems to go along with the idea of a group. It's just a group that just sort of I'm sure I read somewhere that the bulk of people are elderly that seem to be dying, that the healthcare system is working and keeping the younger, fitter, healthier people okay. It is being defeated. I think it's definitely the being won out. That vaccines will be found, manufactured, and people will be able to take them, and treatments and things like that. That it's all being, it's sort of, it's not very good. The figures are not good, but also people, I think, probably are taking precautions and they're winning out. That just looks to me like somebody who's definitely won out, but also because they've got all the swords, they're holding all the cards, they've taken the precautions. Yeah, have hope. We need to have hope. But we need to not let our emotions get hold of us. People are being, I think people are still going to panic buy and be hysterical. But then there's also other people that are educated and sensible that understand it. And they'll give good advice and they will hold the ground and not be hysterical. I think it's not pleasant, but I don't think it's the pandemic everybody seems to think it is going to be. I think modern medicine's going to answer for an awful lot. What's going to happen with coronavirus over the next few weeks? Oh, I think it's going to carry on going across the planet. Yeah, it's just going to carry on. It's just going to carry on, but it's going to be dealt with in each country. I think it's going to carry on, travelling. I think people are still going to be quite complacent about it, hence the availability for it to just suddenly, people, all you need is a couple of people to have it and they're just going to pass it on as they go around their daily lives. Some people are going to lose, some people are going to win. I wasn't thinking of anything when that fell out, so I'm not going to take it as I'm just going to take it as relevant. I think things are going to change. How is coronavirus going to change the world? What impact's it going to have, like long term? What the influence is it going to have? I'm gonna, because it's a bigger question, I'm gonna pull out. I think, judgments at the bottom. That's extra information for me, the bottom of the deck. I think I think that complacency is going to go with the Queen of Wands and the King of Wands. I think they're going to, the worldwide, that there's going to be a change of how things are dealt with. I think they were going to be a bit more proactive in dealing with matters of public health on a global scale. Because we just have so much international travel nowadays. There's just thousands and thousands of plane journeys, air journeys every day. That's one of the reasons why, it's able to spread so quickly, is because of the volume of travel we as humans do today in the modern world. Never before in history have we travelled so much. Well, I think there's a desire to balance the needs of our globalised society with a desire to walk away and to, there's a real desire to move away from what's been before, whether that's the situation of how we did things before, or what, I'm not, time will tell. But my inkling is that we will do things differently in terms of travel after this. So, the rules may be slightly different on how you move through the airport when you travel to a different country or a different area. I think there's still going to be a welcoming world where, people still want to travel and still travellers are welcome, but I think it's just going to be different. And I think it might be new international regulations will be put in place probably quite quickly about dealing with travel. But it's going to be like a wake-up call that they're going to be like, oh, well, if even though we can look at that, but the feeling that I've got so far in this reading and sort of is that it's a bad virus. I don't want to get it. But there's a decent survival rate, it's a good survival rate. But I think there's going to be a recognition that if something that had a much worse survival rate was to come about in the planet, a virus, an infection, whatever, it just shows how quickly that it can be spread around. And I think that's what's going to change things. And they're trying to balance out what we've got at the moment to what they might feel might be better for the health of humans. What I was thinking is is travel going to be locked down an awful lot over this summer? Because everybody's going to be booking their summer holidays. Is this going to be carrying on throughout the rest of the year? And I'm going to say, yeah. This what comes across here at this moment in time. There's the independent lady in her own garden, which always speaks to me as somebody that, Pentacles is home and steadiness to me. I think a lot of people a lot of the world is going to prefer to stay at home rather than risk not being able to get back. So I think international travel will be a bit battered this year. In the same way, do you remember when the volcano went off in Iceland and no one could get home in their summer holidays, back to school and get their kids back because of the volcano going off and the ash in the air? It could be along those lines. I think it's going to be a bit battered. And I think it's probably likely personal choice, because that always comes across to me as personal choice, the Nine of Pentacles. That the people of the world are going to, personal choice of the world is to... I don't think they feel battered and sort of stuck in. So I think there's going to be a lot of countries that in an attempt to contain it and to sort of deal with the citizens that have got the virus, that they're going to perhaps restrict it. So people relying on tourism might not do so well this year. Staycations. Costa del Garden. This is going to be a difficult one that I might not find the answer to, but I feel I should try and impress you all for my first video. How long is coronavirus going to last? How long is it going to be a sort of pandemic, as you know? 4, 9, 10. So 14 weeks, 14 months. It could be, I'm not taking the meaning of the cards, by the way. I should have said that. I always take the numbers when I'm trying to time something. I don't pay attention to. So, I will take that out because it doesn't have a number on it, really. It's the 4. So, I'm sort of inclining towards 14, like the 4 and the 10. 4 months, 10 months, 14 months. Which would make sense, really, because it takes time for them to sort out the vaccine and to test it and make it and get it around the world. Because I imagine it'll only be a few sort of labs that make it, that manufacture it too. So there's only going to be a few factories in the world that make it. Working together to keep things quiet, underground and unspoken, rested, to keep things at a restful point. So I would say that makes sense, is that a lot of governments, international, treaties will make the decision they don't want to send the general public into a tizzy. So I would imagine that we're not hearing everything. It doesn't make any sense to tell the public everything. We'd all be running around like headless chickens. Right. This is difficult, but what are the long-term effects of the coronavirus on the world? What will the long-term impact be? Bottom of the deck, star. I think the long-term effect is that there's going to be a bit of tension, because there's an inconsistency globally about what different countries are doing. Like some countries, they're not checking anyone when they come in on an international flight. They're not testing their temperature or, asking them questions. I think that it's just business as usual. So I think longer term there might be a bit of tussle about what the planet's going to do if there is a really bad, serious pandemic. Because like before, previously in history, it's just going to happen. People needed to trade with each other, and it would just be brought in on a ship and then just spread around, and it would take even like a year or two to really spread across Europe and the world. But now everything happens really quickly, so I just get the feeling that tensions may rise, but that it will be controlled and that things will be changed because they have to be. You can't have all these tensions. I think something will be decided and dealt with where people say, right, we've just got to be practical. There's been a theme of practicality that runs through, where there's people that are being worried and emotional and others that are being very firm and strong about it. And so I think the general feeling is that although there's going to be a bit of tension, it will be got over and they will move away from it. There will be grief sort of moving away from it, sort of accepting that it's happened and that there's upset. And then I think people will make friends. But I think the long-term impact will... I just get this feeling that the longer-term impact will be less cooperation. Lessons will be learned. People will go off, countries will go off and think, well, when we did this, it didn't help. But then when we did that, it did help. So I think a lot of countries and medical boards will go off and talk and discuss and learn from what's happened. The hermit is a teacher that goes off to learn lessons and comes back and spreads their wisdom. So I think lessons will be learned, and that's the long-term impact. But I think there's going to be a bit of tension beforehand, where there's perhaps a lot of finger pointing, but then it's like it's happened and we need to be friends again, and I think that'll happen. And I think a lot of governments and countries, prime ministers and presidents will just say, okay, well, this is what we did wrong, so if this happens again, this is what we've got to do. Learning from the mistakes, which is a positive sign from my perspective. So what's going to happen next with coronavirus? I think it's going to carry on for a bit. I think it's going to reach new places. I think it's going to balance out in the places that it is. It's sort of got its foundation in some areas of the world. It's just going to have to run its course. But it is going to reach new places, I would say. And the message of it is just going to spread across the world. I think it's just going to get a bit worse before it gets better, but it will get better. So I think numbers will rise. I don't think it's run its course yet. I think it's got somewhere to go. I think it's just going to spread. I think it exists in the world now, and that's what we've got to learn to deal with, that it exists in the world. And you know, if we have a vaccine against it, people can get vaccinated against it, the vulnerable people. I think it'll be contained in that aspect. That's a question. What will contain it in the end? Let's see. What will contain coronavirus in the end? So at least it's not a vast amount of numbers of people that suffer from it, but that it's just low numbers like a lot of other flus. What's going to contain coronavirus? Yeah. So I asked for a clarification on the Six of Cups because what's going to contain it? It's going to be balanced out. I think it's going to be a balance of things. I think it probably will be things like medicine, vaccines, medication, but also I think probably people restricting the possibility of others catching it. You know, quarantining. The Six of Cups with the Empress speaks to me that what's going to contain it is new life, new growth. I think life will carry on and we'll adapt, and we'll just not like our immunities will like suddenly become immune to coronavirus. I don't think so, but I think things will be grown, and new medicines, the antiviruses and vaccinations and all that. Something will be grown, something, you know, information will be built on. I think we're aware of it now. And because people are being sensible and learning from it and changing their habits in order to take the best care of themselves they can, I think that's what's going to start containing it. This intrigues me. I might clarify that as well. Yeah, it's just going to be all the hard work, success. I just feel this is the abundance, it's positivity coming forward through success is going to contain it, because it's not one thing that's going to contain it, it's many, and that's what's going to bring the success. It's lots of things, lots of effort put into it. It's all the effort put into it guarantees success. And that's what's going to do it. So it's not just going to go without any effort. It is by the combined effort of a lot of people doing a lot of different things depending on the circumstances that will contain it. So I'm sort of not feeling that this is truly terrifying. I feel that people are doing a lot to deal with this. And I think it's going to bear fruit, which is that wanted out earlier, so I'm going to pay attention. Oh, yeah. This is what's going to have a big impact. The High Priestess and the Knight of Pentacles. It's people's knowledge and intuition working hard. It's going to be the scientists and the medical staff and people paying attention and knowing what the right thing to do is. Yep, there. It's going to change. It's going to come to its natural end. I think there are clearly already people that are suffering from it and sadly passed away. I think that will carry on for a bit. It's not, as I said, I don't get the feeling that it's at the end. I think it's part of the process. Maybe we're in the midst of it and it'll start declining soon enough. But I got the feeling it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. But then this is just for entertainment. We'll see. See if I can get one more question. What final question could I do before I finish off? What do we need to learn from the coronavirus? What is it we as a people, just average people, need to learn? What's the lesson behind the coronavirus? What can we learn from this is that we've got to keep these things in the back of our mind, that things can change at any moment. That in a world of infinite possibilities, anything's possible. And it can, that we need to foster and encourage and nurture the things that have true value to us, that, you know, like family and security and home is important. For some of you it might be a career and status, that's fine, whatever's it, but there's something that you need to be nurtured within you, and it, you know, in an infinite world of possibilities, it's possible that something comes along to disrupt it. That sometimes you need to think differently about things, that you need to think outside of the box, that there's sacrifice required in order to keep things going healthily, and things can just come out of nowhere. They can just come out of nowhere like this has, and you have to grow and nurture and manifest and be abundant with the things that are important to you, with the things that have a spiritual value to you, that have a traditional value to you even. You've got to grow something that's long lasting. It's quite a spiritual message there. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was just going to be sort of, well, I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting a philosophically spiritual message of these things happen, and this is why you have to develop a world that can be resilient to sudden vast change, that can be resilient to where you have things of long-standing value. I mean, the Queen of Pentacles and the Empress always speak to me basically the same energies, but the Empress is much more powerful and strong and more to the point. The Queen of Pentacles is softer in that, but they're saying the same thing, and it's about the things that you nurture that are important to you. It's very family orientated for me, the Pentacles, very security orientated, very much about being provider, and that's what we need to learn from it, for what you're nurturing in the world, what we're providing for the world, and what foundation we're creating, and what community we're creating. How you can have that so it lasts any stresses or strains. I think things are going to be different. We're moving on from something different. I've felt this for a while anyway, generally in the world, that things are starting to change over the past couple of years. Let me know in the comment section if you feel that's the same as well. I think we need to learn security of the self and the people around us. Work together. Because that to me is about working together as well, the Hierophant. Working together in order for a better end. So that's interesting. I'm going to leave on that. I feel that's quite a sweet and positive note to end on. So I'm going to end there. I've enjoyed this, so I'm going to carry on doing it for a while. See how the channel picks up. And so on. I'm enjoying it, so I'll do it for a bit. If you've enjoyed it, please like the video, leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to make any suggestions about anything that you'd like me to look at. Anything really, but if I feel I can't do it, I'll be honest and tell you that that's not gonna, because I don't, you know, I want to be honest with you. If I feel like it's, oh, I just can't, I've tried, I'll give it like a test to say, oh, I've tried that, but it didn't pan out, I couldn't get the energies right. But hopefully there'll be some really interesting suggestions that we can have a look at. So leave your comments to see what you think about how the reading, sort of the direction, did it make any sense to you? What was your interpretation? I'm hoping that I set it up so you could at least see all the cards. But otherwise, thank you very much for listening to this. Please take very good care of yourself, and goodbye.